who are CEOs in the Fortune 500 or S&P 500 companies. What about the 475 men? What is their role in making sure that the person in their pipeline, in their companies, at least have an equal balance between men and women that are willing to take that role? So I really believe that some men are stepping up to it. They're doing a better job of being those mentors, sponsors, supporters, both personally.
It was really important for me to find out exactly what it was about clothing that women wear in the Middle East. And so that's where my journey actually began. One of the things that I found out is that, first of all, Islam came to the world essentially in the 6th century. And although many people believe that the Quran dictates how women are to dress, that's not necessarily the case.
Liquor will put weight on you. Now, I know y'all probably looking at me and saying, damn, she must work out, but no. This is all natural. I grew all this myself. Now, mind you, I had to train like an athlete to get this body. You don't just wake up and look like this. I had to eat midnight snack and between meal snack. And then you have to lay immediately down after all that eating.
Right, so in the case of the South Atlantic countries, you do have a situation where several of these countries are not directly involved in these negotiations, or they're not, frankly, involved in these negotiations. I think those many of these countries, if you look, I'll give you focus of South America, they're negotiating trade agreements in the case of Mercosur, the South American, several of the South American countries with Europe, but that has been
We are women catalysts. We are the past, we are the present, we are the future. We're daughters, mothers, wives, aunties, sisters. We're counselors, caretakers. We're strong, resilient, loving, caring, passionate, adaptable, courageous, grateful. We're bold, beautiful, teachers, writers, doctors, lawyers, policymakers, journalists. We're actresses, poets, comedians, scientists, authors. We are more than trailblazers. We are also trendsetters. So come on, take this journey with us as we share some of our challenges and victories, and ask that you take part in this conversation to learn what we all have in common, to share resources and ideas, and to find out how to stay sane, upbeat, and laugh all at once. So thank you for joining us and partaking in this journey with us. We pay tribute to our ancestors and those who have paved the way. We thank them for their everlasting contributions so that we, as women, will continue to trail the blaze and set trends. We are women of color catalysts. We are more than trailblazers. We are also trendsetters. Welcome panelists and welcome viewers. I am grateful and extremely happy to have you join us today for the first live for Anything and Everything. My name is Hallema Sharif, and I'm the owner of Hallema's World, a global communications and public relations consultancy I started back in New York in 2009. I'm also the host and producer for Anything and Everything. A little bit about myself. I'm originally from New Orleans, but I have also lived abroad and throughout the US. I'm a daughter, mother, sister, auntie, wife, grandmother, sister, auntie, and a sister friend. I started this online platform back in June, and I must admit it's been one heck of a task. The intent was to allow members of our human race to engage in conversations about life and all of its circumstances. I know, and I'm sure you do as well, that none of us are exempt from the trials and tribulations associated with life, and that we all have a story. And that story just may be a blessing for someone else. My first guest was my good friend Penny Buford, one of the main writers for the Martin Lawrence Show, followed by another good friend, playwright, stage, and film director Stanley Bennett Clay. And then I began the New Orleans Music Legends series because of my historically rich cultural connection to New Orleans, beginning with my great-grandfather, who was noted as being the grandfather of jazz, to my father, my cousins, my brothers and sons, and the legacy continues. I've had legends such as Edward Kidd Jordan and his daughter Rachel, Jermaine Basil, Victor Goines, Donald Harrison Jr., Nicholas Payton, Herlin Riley, Shalyn Powell, James Andrews, and Garrett Morris. And yes, there are many more on my list. So then I said to myself, Hallema, you haven't had any women on the show. What's up with that? Well, actually, nothing is up with that, because as we know, there are some amazing, phenomenal women in our world. So I decided back in August that I was going to add another layer to anything and everything and start with a conversation with women of color and tailor a segment on women of color catalysts. The premise behind this is because for the past few months, as you know, our country has witnessed a number of trailblazing boss moves from women of color, one being Senator Kamala Harris, my soror, running vice president of the United States. Shout out to Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And then you have women such as Issa Rae, Ava DuVernay, and Mara Brock Akil, who are creating avenues and going against the quota Black women have to fit in to be successful in Hollywood. They are literally redefining the landscape. And today, I am so honored to have this wonderful group of women catalysts joining me. I have a special connection with these wonderful women on professional and endearing levels. For example, Subha Barry. Her career spans 33 plus years. She's president of Working Mother Media. I met Subha some years ago. However, I've been a champion for Working Mother Media since its beginning. While working at Burson Marsteller's global PR firm in New York, I was assigned to Accenture's Diversity and Inclusion Division and attended several conferences sponsored by Working Mother Media. I later met Subha when she became president. She has a proven track record of building cohesive, productive teams to be agents of change, linking people, leadership to business results, and leveraging opportunities to drive profitability. The last time Subha and I connected was in 2017 in Singapore at their Global Advancement of Women Conference. Then there's my girl, Sandy Wilkins, global fashion design expert. Sandy, as you know, Sandy, you are near and dear to my heart. I consider her to be soul sister number one. Sandy and I met in Qatar while working at VCU Arts Qatar. Sandy has been in the fashion business for over 45 years. She's done just about every job from runway and print model to sharing one of the top-rated fashion programs in the US. And she continues to be one of the most respected fashion educators in the US and the Middle East. Then there's the infamous trailblazing and so talented comedian, actress Luenell. She is
Luenell.
Yeah.
Luenell, boo. The original bad girl of comedy. LA Magazine names Luenell as one of the top 25 funniest people in LA. And trust me, she really is. Now, let me just tell you all, I just met Luenell yesterday, but I feel like I've known her forever. The relationship came through Garrett Morris, and I'm honored to have her on this panel because this is exactly where she belongs. So then we have Julissa Reynoso, former Ambassador of Uruguay, appointed by President Barack Obama. Julissa has extensive policy and legal experience, engaging both as a lawyer in private practice and as a senior diplomat on behalf of the U.S. government. She is a litigation and international arbitration partner with the international law firm Winston & Strawn. So y'all better not mess with her. Our connection is my oldest son, Jelani. The U.S. Embassy in Uruguay funded his band's trip to perform at the Jazz a la Cal Music Festival in Mercedes, Uruguay. She's been a part of our family ever since. And last but not least, Kemba Hendrix, Director of Diversity and Inclusion for the House of Representatives. Unfortunately, due to an unforeseen last-minute emergency on Capitol Hill, Kemba contacted me and humbly regrets that she will not be able to join us this evening and sends her regards to the panelists and viewers. We hope to work with Kemba, for our next live Women of Color event. However, I would still like to share with you who she is. Kemba works to cultivate an inclusive environment in the house with a workforce that reflects the diversity of the country they serve. I call her my little Kemba Wemba because I'm so proud of this young lady. She's one of my mentees. I hired her while I was a producer at Fox in New Orleans. She was 19, 20 years old. Kemba boasts an accomplished background, having dedicated her career to education, conflict resolution, and the implementation of equal employment opportunities of individuals of all backgrounds. She has worked in several capacities and across multiple agencies to foster diverse, inclusive workplace environments. Prior to her appointment by Speaker Nancy Pelosi as the inaugural director of the House of Diversity and Inclusion, Kemba served as the director of the House Democratic Diversity Initiative, where she focused on increasing House Democratic workforce diversity and expanding opportunities for diversity candidates at all House staff levels. Kemba holds a bachelor's degree from my alma mater, Xavier University in New Orleans, and a Juris Doctorate from Howard University School of Law. Since completing her education, she has worked within several organizations prior to joining the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, including the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the U.S. Department of State as a legal advisor to the Chief Diversity Officer and Office of Civil Rights, and the U.S. Office of Personnel Management as an advisor regarding performance. So thank you, Kemba. Thank you, ladies, for your contributions. You all are rock stars. I'm going to take this moment. I wanted to read Kemba's bio, but I want these ladies to introduce themselves. So I'm going to allow them to tell you their stories before we actually get started. And we're going to start with Subha.
Thank you so much, Hallema. You know, you heard my name is Subha Barry, and I wanted to share something that doesn't show up in my bio. And I am here in this country. I'm an immigrant Hindu South Asian woman who came to this country as a student from India in 1983, who met and fell in love with and married her Irish Catholic white American husband, who in turn grew up in a Polish Jewish household because his stepfather was Polish and Jewish. I'm a proud mother of 2 adult children, Tara, who's 32, she's a surgeon in Tampa, Florida, and Jay, who's 25 and works in New York City. I worked in financial services in my early career. I was a commodities trader and I was a wealth advisor at Merrill Lynch for more than 21 years. And I was really lucky, and I think it was my good fortune to find great success early as a trader and wealth advisor, because that set me up in many ways for the career success that I've had in diversity and inclusion. And I hope we get to talk about how those two things are connected. I'm also a 6-time cancer survivor. I've had 5 bouts with Hodgkin's disease, and that required surgery. It was followed by every known chemotherapy for that disease. And then I had a stem cell transplant. And then I had 2 rounds of experimental protocols and clinical treatments. So by the time I had breast cancer, I felt like that was a walk in the park in comparison. This changed my career trajectory from, a focus on making money for people to making people feel whole and included. And that's why at Merrill Lynch, I went on to build a multicultural business development unit, because I wanted to showcase the business case for diversity. And I went on to become their first chief global diversity officer. Fast forward to now, I'm the president of Working Mother Media, as Hallema said, and for 6 years, we've been helping companies become employers of choice for working parents and caregivers, for women and women of color, talent, and other dimensions of diversity, including race, ethnicity, the differently abled, sexual orientation, religious differences, generational differences, among others. And I'm going to end with something that has great significance for me. This week is Navratri, which is our Hindu festival where we honor and celebrate the divine in female form. Durga for her courage and valor. Lakshmi for her ability to bring prosperity wherever she is. Saraswati for her knowledge and wisdom. And I look at us on this panel and I think about all of you in the audience. Each of us women possess those attributes. So the timing of this panel could not have been any better. So thank you so much, Hallema, for including me.
Thank you, Subha. I appreciate you immensely. We're going to go next to Sandy.
Well, I'm delighted too to be on this panel. I'm really honored because these women are definitely rock stars. I'm just a humble individual, a teacher. Uh, that comes, it's very, very basic. It's part of the beginnings. And it is a profession that I did not plan to be a part of, but I have been a part of for over 45 years. Molding and helping young minds is one of the greatest gifts I think that you could give to humanity. And I am so pleased to be a part of that. My personal history is pretty simple. I have been a part of this industry. I've done a little bit of everything, but probably the thing that has been the most rewarding was running the fashion department in the Middle East, which I did for over 20 years. And I lived in Doha. And one of the things that being there afforded me an opportunity to travel all around the world. And one thing that I have discovered is that we are all basically the same. We want the same out of life. We aspire for our children to do the same. And as an educator, I realize how important that is to offer that to every young person, particularly young women in the world today. So I'm delighted to be on this panel. I don't have the illustrious career that Subha has, and I'm certainly not as funny as Luenell, but I do make a small contribution.
You sure do, Sandy.
Thank you.
Sandy, you are just being too modest, woman. Okay, we're gonna talk about that later on, but we're gonna let Miss Luenell go next.
Well, I am clearly out of my league. Clearly. My name is Luenell. I am an actress, comedian. I was born in Tollett, Arkansas. Population maybe 285 today. So, I'm from Nowhereville, and then was raised in Oakland, California, where I got very involved with, civil rights. The Panther Party was there and stuff like that. And so I've been woke for quite a while. I have one daughter. I'm the first one. I'm the eighth of 8 children. I'm at my sister's house in Fort Worth, Texas, although I live in Los Angeles, because she's nursing me back to health after having a knee replacement surgery just 2 weeks ago. So I've been opened up to the wonderful world of opiates and family. I'm the first one in my family to go into the entertainment industry, and I didn't know that it was going to be that I was going to be relevant still 30 years later, and I'm proud of that. My daughter is a dancer professionally. She's done the Soul Train Awards and the GLAAD Awards and BET and stuff like that. And my nephew produces my YouTube show, Hey Luenell. And so I think that I've had some kind of influence on the next generation. My generation, my brothers and sisters, work, retired, live life, be quiet, vote, eat, family. That's it. But I think I have had some influence on the next generation. And for that, I'm very happy.
Well, I'm very happy too. We are blessed to have you here, and you are not out of your league. At the end of the day, our common denominator is that we are women. Bottom line, we may come from different perspectives and different backgrounds, but we're all in it for the same cause. Julissa?
Yes,
that's right.
Thank you, Hallema, and thank you to the rest of my clan here that we've been talking for several weeks. It's such a pleasure getting all these wonderful new friends and comrades. I was born in the Dominican Republic, and I came to the United States when I was 7 years old, to the South Bronx in New York City, where I grew up. I originally from a very rural village in the DR where we had no running water or electricity. So I went from that to the Bronx was burning in 1982. So it was extreme kind of episodes of human condition in a matter of days. My parents and I made what we could out of life in the South Bronx in the 80s. It was the kind of the poorest congressional district. It still is in the country, and it's was hardly hit at that time by crack and all the other associated kind of conditions and bad depressing realities. I got the opportunity this country gave me to become a lawyer and go to fancy schools and the like. And today I am a litigator. I practice law in a firm here in New York City. I do international law and litigation. But I did have the honor, courtesy of President Obama and Secretary Hillary Clinton, to serve in the government for 5.5 years. First as Deputy Assistant Secretary of State, and then as U.S. Ambassador to Uruguay. And currently I'm quite involved in the whole set of issues involving the political world as we speak. As you can imagine, because of my prior affiliation, I'm a Democrat, but I'm also very active in my legal world and making sure women and people of color have the opportunity to really perform and optimize their human potential by getting access to being great professionals and great lawyers if that's what they choose to become. That's me.
Yes. I need to bow to all you ladies. You know, Julissa, you are a bad mamma jamma. You know, I recall when we first met. I think I met you for the first time finally last year when I went to New York for my aunt's 100th birthday. And since then, she's made her transition. And I'm just amazed by you and all these wonderful ladies on this panel. And I must say it's quite interesting as I sat back and I listened to everyone introduce themselves. And I'm like, there are so many layers of our beauty as women, even as we have been challenged, confronted, disregarded, pushed to the side, ignored, undermined. We made it beyond all those barriers and boundaries. We pushed, we didn't settle for less, and we will continue to fight that good fight. And for you, our viewers, why? Because we, as I said, are more than trailblazers. We are trendsetters. And by the way, speaking of pushing and fighting, please go out and vote early. I know some of you all have, and it is impotent, okay? Vote early, be that voice of the empowered. Yeah. You know this, I don't know, my production crew in the back, I don't know if you showed that t-shirt popped up on the screen, production.
They did.
They did.
This is one of the women-owned businesses. I have a section on Anything and Everything media site dedicated to women-owned businesses. And this is a shirt that was made by my niece. She's in New Orleans. And so support her and support all these other businesses and get your tails out there and vote now.
Now, don't you bring now another relative in on this show. My son did the theme song. My niece did the t-shirt.
Well, you gonna be my relative too, because that
no nepotism around.
You can't be New Orleans with that food. You know we got to take care of our people's minds.
Oh.
I gotta promote my parent. Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, I also encourage you to visit Anything and Everything media website to support some of those women of color owned businesses. Click on the Women in Biz tab, and incidentally, there are tons, and you never know what you may find. Now, on with this conversation, but first, allow me to share with you, wonderful viewers, what will actually happen. We will have several questions. Some questions have already come in ahead of time. If those of you who are joining us virtually today didn't have the opportunity to submit your questions, please do so via the YouTube and Facebook comments section, and we will do our best to answer them all. If not, we ask that you email us at questions@anythingandeverythingmedia.com. That's questions@anythingandeverythingmedia.com for future follow-up. Now, this is going to be an all-inclusive kind of question, and we're going to start with Luenell. The first question is, how do you overcome being a woman of color in male-dominated fields of atmosphere? That's a good question for you, Luenell.
Well, I don't suggest everyone take my advice, but what I've had to do in the comedy section specifically is you have to lose a bit of your femininity, and you have to be really a bulldog just like these guys. You have to unfortunately fight, and it takes a toll on your psyche and the way you talk to your children or your man, because every day we have to fight for something. Because in my world, women are always an afterthought. We're there, but we're an afterthought. You know, if you walk down the street and ask 10 people who their favorite comedians are, they'll name 10 men. And then you say, well, what about Wanda Sykes? Oh, yeah, I like her. Well, what about Whoopi Goldberg? That's right. You know, we're an afterthought. And in order to not be that, I have to push and claw and fight every day, as I think every female comic or every female in any sector of business has to do.
Yes.
Because if you and then our aggression, or for lack of a better word, tends to put people off, and they want to call you a name, or they want to get in their feelings and feel some type of way because we're not letting you run up our front and down our back the way it has historically been done for all these years. It's over, and you have to start out I just feel that you have to be able to speak up. You have to be able to know what you want, because they're going to try you at every section. And so you have to be sharp as a tack at all times. It's true that women have to be better than a man in every genre of everything, but we actually are better. So it's just us being us.
Yay.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? And I think that's one of the reasons why we multitask so well.
Yeah.
That's the way we were
Look
made.
at what you said Subha's been through. I don't know any man who could go through what she's been through. They would have been gone long time ago, gave up. You know, that's incredible to me.
Well, thank you, Luenell. Thank you. But you know, many times when you face really tough challenges at work, I would think to myself, what can you do to me that hasn't already been done to me?
Honey.
Yeah. I've had to say goodbye to my children a few times. I'm going to tell you, there is nothing more difficult than that.
Been there, done it.
You know? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We have so many balls in the air.
Exactly.
All the time.
Exactly.
You know?
But you know, the other thing is, you know, in financial services and any kind of male-dominated industry, and there are so many of them, I have to tell you, to some extent, I got lucky in the beginning, because when I went in, I picked a career where, as a trader, every day, every week, every month, I was measured by the numbers I put on the board. And if I made a good trade, nobody could take it away from me. Mm-hmm. And the fact that I had an accent and frizzy hair and, you know, ate curry and all the ways in which I was different did not matter, because I ran circles around them in actually putting money on the table. And I always say to women, be brave about taking that sales job, because no one can take that away from you. Mm-hmm. When you produce and you put the numbers on the board, you own that.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, it's just that we got to put the numbers on the board for ourselves now and quit making every doggone body else in this world rich and famous. And your fuzzy hair make a difference. Your accent make a difference. What about all these slobbering big water men that's been running everything? They can look like they look, and their looks don't count in the workplace. But we got to do all this juggle ball and look like a rock star at the same time. And Sandra, don't you ever think that your job is very important? I'm just sorry, I just have to say that, because I wouldn't school these kids. I can't do it. You are, and the fact, I hope you can't carry a legal weapon. Just saying. you know. And then Julissa, she up here in politics with the worst bunch, the worst gang.
That's true.
You know, and when I talk about fighting, I know you got to fight every day. You left and came back. You might have had to go put out a fire just then, earlier today. So,
yes.
You know.
And not to mention, Julissa is from the South Bronx. And anybody from New York, you know, South Bronx. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Every time they sent me around to do difficult political tasks or negotiate something with some foreign leader, I was like, I already been there, done that. I grew up in the South Bronx. You can't get more hardcore than that.
Thank you.
So everything else is these bad foreigners who are, you know, the bad foreign governments or anybody who we think is an enemy. That's nothing compared to negotiating with folks in the corner in the Bronx.
And the thing is, I think that people always expect us to be uneducated and stupid. So when you come at them really knowing your stuff, that makes people who are insecure already even madder. And these men are a game. Sorry, women are taking over. We're here. We're not going anywhere. You've had your chance. You messed up every single thing in every aspect of every single thing. So now it's time for the women to come. Gay, straight, trans, all that. We're coming. This is it. And we are not our ancestors, Hunty.
No, we're not. Because we go beyond the barriers and we go and we get crazy. Okay. So, you know, anyone else wants to comment on that? You want to continue, Julissa? You want to chime in on more on that, or you're good to go?
I think we're good.
Okay. Yeah. So let me go to the next question. One of the questions that came from our viewers was, how can women raise their hands for opportunities if we don't even know these opportunities exist in the first darn place?
Wow. Well, you know, I'll speak to that. I think one of the problems is that we as women, we must be our own advocates. And when I say that, I mean, we pull our sisters aside, we make them aware of opportunities that are out there. We question, you know, when things are happening, because we typically know when things are going on within the organizations that we're a part of. And when we get a sense that something is about to happen, we need to make our sisters aware.
That's right.
The matter is, I mean, you know, how can we raise our hands? Well, you can if you don't know about it.
Right.
And so we also have to demand, if we're going to be a part of an organization, we have to demand that we have a seat at the table so that we know what's going on. And because we do make a significant contribution, that's the least that people who run our corporations and our universities and so forth, that's the least that they could do, is to make us aware. But I mean, we really don't have the power to demand that, because when you do, then you become an angry woman. And we've all been called
and it's bye-bye.
The angry woman.
That's right.
I'm okay with being the angry woman, because if that's what it takes, that's what it takes.
But we certainly have enough to be angry about.
We have plenty to be angry about. Absolutely.
Plenty.
Absolutely.
Sandy, there are a couple of things you addressed, and you talked about how important it is for women to raise their hand to ask for stuff. But, you know, we did, year before last, we did a research on gender gap at the top for women. This was all women. And when we cut that data by multicultural women, the results were just really alarming.
Wow.
So what we did last year is we drilled down and did a research piece on gender gap at the top for multicultural women. Why are multicultural women, almost 50% of them that we interviewed, and there were thousands of them, said they were going to leave their company within the next 18 months. 50%. And that is the fastest growing percentage of the population, and they were going to leave. And you know, the other part of it was these women were ambitious.
Yeah.
Black women had the highest levels of ambition, followed by Asian and Hispanic women, higher than white women in all cases. And yet these were the women that were getting ready to leave their corporations. Why? So we found a few things. Number one, women say that even during normal times, forget about these virtual, Zoom call times. During normal times, they said when we walk in the room, the first thing they see is our gender and our race. They do not see our intellect, our capability, our experience, expertise, none of that. They look at us, they look at the gender, they look at the race. And for women of color, that becomes a double whammy immediately. Okay? Second, the male-dominated cultures that are already resistant are that much more resistant of women of color as compared to white women. And I have an analogy I use with that. I call it my bridge analogy. Between white women and white men, there is one bridge to cross, and that is the gender bridge. White men have grown up with white women. They had white mothers, white sisters, white spouses, etc. With men of color, there's only one bridge, and that is the race bridge. They have things in common. And it's hard, it's difficult, but it's, you know, it's still only one bridge. For women of color, it becomes a bridge too far. It's two bridges. It's a gender bridge and the race bridge. So the culture hurts it. Third is, in terms of creating strategic networks, there are simply not enough of us in scale in organizations where we can build those networks. We are spread out in ones and twos all over the place. All of these are barriers that really get in the way, in addition to the relationship capital gap, some of the risk-taking gap. Even if we're willing to take the risk, you need somebody to trust you with it. And that doesn't exist in organizations. So there's a multitude of reasons as to why these gaps exist and why women struggle. But I will tell you, there are two things that can help to overcome them. One is allyship. What I mean by allyship is not white men as allies. I'm talking about, firstly, women of color allying with each other first. So right now, with what is happening with the Black community, and I know a lot of my Asian friends ask me, well, what about us? We are struggling too. And I say, the Black house is on fire. You put that fire out. That's where we need to focus on today. And guess what? I hope we learn lessons and we send a powerful message to our other brown and Black sisters that someday it'll be our turn, and can you help us? So being able to ally with each other first is the first message to take. And second one is, let us vote with our feet when you have companies that do not embrace it. Right today, companies are more aware about this than they have ever been. And I will tell you, if great talent walks out the door and goes to other companies that are doing a better, more inclusive job, that will send a powerful message.
That's true. Yeah. I agree with both you ladies. I totally agree. You know, Subha, you know, my double whammy is I'm an African-American Muslim woman, you know, been Muslim my entire life. And many times, you know, my name itself, Hallema Sharif, has been like, well, what is she, Arab? No, I'm a whole Black woman, born in New Orleans, okay? And so a lot of times, you know, it goes back to the montage we shared earlier when Michelle Prison said, if there's no seat at the table, bring a folding chair. So that's the mindset that I've always had. You know, I never wait for anybody to do anything for me. But that allyship is so important because it starts with us. Unfortunately, there are a lot of Black women, Asian women who hate on each other. Instead of supporting one another, instead of empowering one another. So that's when I'm sitting here looking at you wonderful ladies speak, and we all come from different backgrounds. We are working to empower one another and pouring into each other. And that's what it starts there first. Then it goes to see that. So you're right. As a matter of fact, production, I'm gonna have them share that study that you mentioned that Working Mother Media did. I actually grabbed some of that that you shared with them. You know, I may not be able to see it, but if anything, you can't see some of this information, you can always go, I'll have it on the website, and you can always visit the workingmothermedia.com website, which has all this information as well. So what you said was on point about Black women, Asian women, Latinx. That was one heck of a study. Thank you. Anyone else want to comment on that? Thank you, production.
Hallema, I have a question I'd like to pose to Sandra, if I could. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Sandra, this is my thoughts, right?
Okay.
Some places are opening up and letting the children go back to school, right? Of different grades, I guess. I don't, maybe, okay. So during this quarantine, a lot of things have been brought to people's attention whether they were ready to receive it or not. They have been schooled more during this quarantine through movies, videos, everything like that than ever before. So now these kids know that the education that most of us got and some grades after us got has all been a lie. So now that we know this, are they sending kids back to school and continuing to teach the lie? Or has there been changes made in school curriculum, to try to correct some of these egregious lies? Like, why send kids back to school and continue to teach the lies? So I just want to know what's up with that.
Well, it's funny that you ask, and it's an excellent question. I have been in university education pretty much all of my life, but I've had children of my own. I have twin daughters that have gone through the educational system. One thing I will say to you, because of my grandchildren, they are so technologically advanced.
Yeah.
Since they were old enough to hold a cell phone or a pad, they understand technology. And we as educators, and not just me, but every educator, has to understand we have to meet the children where they are. And that's because of technical education. And I do think kids are learning more. It's not for every child. I will say that. There are some kids that are having a lot of issues with, that attention span. But we have to understand how long the attention span is, where we can put our children, how we can indulge them and entice them. But I agree. I think going back to the traditional classroom may be a huge mistake. Maybe this pandemic has happened for a reason, as many things in life do. I mean, they make us look at things from a totally different perspective.
I mean, they cannot be sending kids back and still talking about the Pilgrims and Thanksgiving, when we clearly know that all that was trash. So now they know. So how are you going to conduct class when the kids will be like, Miss Jackson, no, because I know that, you know what I'm saying? And
where are you, Luenell?
We lost Luenell.
We lost Luenell.
Oh, no, I'll be back. No, I'm back.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear
Yes, we can.
Okay, I don't know. Some kind of phone.
We can, Luenell. We can hear you.
Okay, well, you know what I look like. I'll
you know what I look like. Yeah,
I didn't touch nothing. I didn't touch anything. I'm one of the ones that's not technology. The kids got me over there.
I got you. But while you're working on that, one thing I will say is that it will force our educators to look at what they bring to the table. I think that's equally as important. They need to understand, to keep our young people engaged, to keep them progressing educationally, then we've got to bring something that they're interested in. Yeah. I mean, it's as simple as that. There is information that they need. I think that is important. There is an opportunity now for us to look at history as women, our history as people of color, and that's internationally. That all has to be integrated because we are a multicultural, multi-integrated society these days.
Yeah.
We have to address all of that.
Should I clock out and try to come back in, or should I just sit here?
You can try. I mean, a lot of times that does happen. You can just log back in the way we did earlier.
Okay.
Just come back and join us, okay?
Okay, bye, ladies.
You want to see your pretty face?
Bye, Luenell.
Bye, Luenell.
Don't worry, y'all. She's not leaving. She's coming back.
Okay. So I'm gonna go out.
I don't know. We know
she's gonna come back in. So let me. Welcome to technical difficulties, y'all. Anyway, let's just continue. Anybody else wants to chime in on anything? I want to wait for Luenell to come back, but
there she is.
There she is.
You know what happened? My nephew saved the day. We were just talking about this. I didn't have to go out. He got on here and put the whole thing back there. You just said it. It just happened.
Them cherry come in handy.
I was like, oh my God. And he went, I'm back. Okay.
Okay.
Y'all are crazy. You know, I made a statement earlier about the statement that Shirley Chisholm made when she said, "If there's no seat at the table,
Bring a folding chair."
folding chair." So, how have each of you ladies used that as an example of pushing the envelope, or as we say, shattering that glass ceiling?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Julissa.
Oh boy, here we go.
Oh,
I mean,
Julissa,
I'm very blessed to have a lot of diverse partners, mentors, and people who are just trusted me. But at the same time, I've had to make my own path. So I have not followed any traditional route to anything. And you have to be extremely creative and entrepreneurial as a woman of color in any sector. Really, really succeed. I don't private, public, government. I don't care what. I just don't think there is one path for us, because it's not the path were made for other types of people. And so the way I've done it is by being very extremely disciplined, focused, but also knowing when to quit certain things, knowing when not to push further, and at the same time, doing things my way. I know it sounds kind of cheesy and maybe too poetic, but I decided that my client base, for example, my legal work, very specifically, they're all foreigners. And I know a lot of you folks, Sandy and you, Hallema, have lived abroad for many years and have exposed yourself to other cultures and people, and that has been the way I've done it. I mean, I don't know how women of color partners West clients, because I find it to be I found this society to be very close to women of color lawyers, senior lawyers. So I think some foreign cultures and countries and people are more open to people like me than this country, than certain sectors in this country are. That's been my experience. So I've done it by literally leaving the United States and exposing myself and to those potential clients, and also generating a client base from those experiences. If I had stayed domestic, I don't think it would be where I am today.
I agree. I totally agree. I mean, I think my many of the accomplishments and things that I've done in my career probably would not have been possible had I stayed stateside. I mean, when you really look at, I'm in fashion, and it is a male-dominated profession even today.
Yes.
You know, despite the fact that we as women are basically the number one, purveyors of fashion, but men do dictate. And so I will also say that finding where you fit in a particular profession is really important. I mean, I realized that the teaching component of it was what I loved. I love the craft of the business, and kind of teaching, giving other people those skills or exposing them to those skills is really important to help them to realize their dream. So, not every career, fashion, not every person has to be a designer. I love the design component, but the success that I have has been, being there to promote and help others to achieve that dream. And that's equally as important. So, yeah.
That's really well said, Sandra and Julissa. I had actually somewhat of the opposite. So I came to this country, and in 1983, when I came here, I found people treating me differently, correcting my English, even though I always thought that I spoke grammatically better English than most of the people around me.
You do. It's as cocky Americans, But
cocky, what was interesting, Luenell, was, I came where I was part of the majority population. Remember, I used to look around me, and then everybody pretty much looked like me. On billboards, they were like me. In movies, they were like me. And, in companies, they were like me. And so when I came here and I was treated like a minority, I didn't quite know what was happening.
Yeah.
So I would actually look at them thinking, what is wrong with you?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you do that? How rude is it? And the best example of that was my mother came to visit me, and so I took her to this Texan host family that I had, and they had invited us for tea, and she served tea and all these nice things. And my mother was talking, and she said, Subha's aunt is somewhere. She was and so this lady takes it upon herself to correct my mother and say to her, no, in this country we say aunt, not aunt. Like, even if that were the case, can you imagine the gumption? Okay, then, no, but this is what was amazing. My mother says to her, oh, is that so? Where I learned English, an aunt was a creepy, crawly creature, and an aunt is a relative. So, exactly. So, but I would tell you that I think that if I had not had that kind of confidence and security, I would have been beat down.
Yeah.
And I had the gift of 19 years of being raised a certain way and being infused with a certain confidence. So when you asked the question, Hallema, I thought to myself, the two things I've always done is I have made it my business to be extremely self-aware about my strengths and about my weaknesses. And based on the fact that I started my career as a commodities trader, I'm a good risk taker. So I know when to play that card with my strength and when to hold back when it calls on something about me that's not my strength. Sure. I know how to play each. And then over time, I learned how to leverage others to help cushion what my weakness was, because I know that I may not be strong at everything, but together, partnered with the right people, I could be great. And I decided that was the way to build relationships. And I began, I used to call it the meeting before meetings. Anytime we were going into a meeting, I always had a meeting before the meeting with some colleagues, because I knew 9 times out of 10, if I had a great idea, some other guy would pick it up and make it his. Yeah. And I needed my buddy, my friend.
That's right.
Usually a male, to say, oh, Subha, that's a great idea. I said, no matter what I say, right after I say it, you've got to say, Subha, that's a great idea. And I'll do the same for you. But this way, I get to have my name tagged with the idea so someone else can take it and make it their own.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
Well, stealing is what Americans do.
And that's what they do very well.
Yeah, stealing.
Julissa,
you're right.
You're on mute, Julissa.
Oops, sorry. I said no. I'm good. I'm happy to keep talking about.
What you said are so on point. And I was raised. My parents, and I love saying this because it's my parents had me in their 40s, so I'm the youngest of 4, and so my mother was 44, daddy was like 41, and they were born in 24 and 27. They're no longer here, but I was raised in a Muslim household to think independently. So we were always entrepreneurs. I never knew my daddy to have a 9-to-5. He was a musician, and that paid for my education. And my mother was a registered nurse. And so we always, it was ingrained in not just my family, but in the community, in the Muslim community, to think for yourself and to be independent. And I realized that has carried me on throughout my life, through my career. And one of the things I've always said, we talk about the word minority. I don't like using those words. I don't like using minority. I don't like using underrepresented, because I don't consider me, you, or any of us in the minority, because I have to think like the majority. And so that's always been, and there may be a sense of cockiness that some people say, oh, she's cocky, but no, it's called confidence. And if we can instill that in one another and in others as well, other young women of color, hey, we could really empower one another. I'm gonna go to some of the questions, because there are several people have asked some questions. So I'm just gonna go through one of them. Mike Bonifer just asked the question: can the panelists describe the difference between a woman's leadership style and a man's?
Okay, who wants to take this one?
Mm.
I'll start.
Go ahead.
It's the difference between chess and checkers.
Mm-hmm.
See, men play checkers, women play chess.
No question.
We, unfortunately, guys, that's why they had that meme going around when Kamala was getting ready to debate, which, by the way, don't you wish the debates could be as organized and respectful as this Zoom is? Mm-hmm. You got 5 women, but they say we talk over each other, but clearly that has not even happened. So shut up with that, men. And when Kamala, they had a meme going around when Kamala was getting ready to debate. They said, well, you can't out debate a black woman, and you surely can't talk louder than her, right?
That's right.
We and that goes. I don't think that Subha is no kind of shrinking violet up there, by any means. She sounds like she gets it done, and everybody on here does. But I think that we just have a different way of. See, men can only see their way. We can see their way, and then we can see our way, and then we can see another way. Or it's just the way our brains are wired. They may be smart, but we're shrewd. Women are shrewd, and we just can handle things. You don't, just like you don't go to different states and do comedy the same in every state. You have to handle people differently. We have the ability to do that. With this person, you might need to be a little bit more aggressive. With this person, you might have to stroke your ego a little bit to get what you need. We're so multifaceted that we know how to play the game. Exactly. You're welcome.
Yes.
That's right.
That's true. I mean, it's the same, Luenell, in the classroom. I mean, any teacher who goes in with a set curriculum and feels like she can impart this information, in mass and affect every student is an idiot.
Right.
Because every student needs that individual attention. That's the only way that you'll be successful. And I think that women understand that, not just in the classroom, but in pretty much everything that we do.
Yeah. You gotta have a different approach for everybody.
Yes.
We have to be so many different people.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We're chameleon-like. It's bananas.
I think that's why we're so good at complex problem solving.
Yes.
Because
that's why.
We can't think of anything in a linear way, because our mere existence is always so diverse and complex. And we're always between the home life and the private, the business, the work, the kind of the externality of just being a woman for the sake of being a woman. I mean, you can't really compartmentalize that. It's just your existence. It does lead to a lot of, feedback and kind of reactions that you have to navigate, not only what you see, but what you don't see. And I think women are very good at sensing what's not physically visual because of the way we're generally treated.
Yeah.
Well, and the other part is take a look even at countries and how they have dealt with the COVID pandemic. Yeah. Some of the top countries that have dealt really well with it, what do they have in common? They have women leaders.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
So guess what? Why? We're organized. We listen to science.
Yeah.
Okay. We are able to, multitask. We communicate effectively. We look for the win-wins.
Yeah.
If you look at an outcome, we're not just going for the win in the end. We're thinking about what is the collateral damage along the way. And we make thoughtful decisions about what needs to get done.
Yes.
So, I would say to you on so many dimensions, ultimately, a leader who's considered to be really good has to have both male and female characteristics and competencies in them.
Yeah.
They've got to know when to pull out each.
I agree.
And so for the first time, men have started talking about, leadership competencies that are vulnerability, empathy. Think about all these sort of words. They are usually associated with women. And yet during these times of crisis, that's exactly what organizations seem to need, countries seem to need.
Yeah.
And so I believe that women are uniquely positioned during this time. And as a result, because of what Luenell said, they see things. They're like, playing chess, where they're looking, 4 steps in advance, thinking about and triangulating all the different ways in which the game can be ended. And if they do that, can you imagine that in business strategy? Can you imagine what that would do? So I think women are uniquely positioned, and I believe that women of color, because of all the complexity to their life experiences, are even better equipped to lead during these times.
Yes.
That's right.
Amen. Sister.
That's right, Subha.
That's right. Wow, this is a great conversation. I think I'm just going to continue with some of the questions in the chat, just to, because there's some really great questions. Adil Latif just left the question: what are some of the challenges of finding opportunities in this time of COVID-19?
I think it's a great time to make some opportunities happen. Everybody right now is thinking out of the box. And some people ain't never going back to work because they have thought of another way. Like you said, this pandemic hasn't been all bad. It's been tragic for the people who lost people. But there have been some great things come out of this with people who have started businesses. And I mean, some of these young kids that have started businesses that will never have to work for nobody again. We found different ways, even in entertainment, Zoom comedy shows, virtual this and that, the talk shows and stuff have gone virtual. You have to find another way to do something. It's a poor rat ain't got but one hole, baby. Yeah. And you got to find another alternative. And it's time to be. This time you can be creative about it. You can do what you want to do. What do you love to do? See, can you make that a business? Now's the time.
Yeah.
And
I think as individuals, we need to sit down and really do some self-assessment. Figure out what is it that you really like to do.
Yeah, if you haven't thought about that by now.
List what your capabilities are. List what your resources are. I mean, I think there are, we graduate from university and we get a degree in whatever, and we go out looking for a job in that area, like that's the way it's supposed to be.
And you end up working at the shoe barn.
Absolutely. And right, or Target or something.
Yeah,
I mean, nothing wrong with Target. I don't want to do that. But right. So I think we really need to take the time to really look at what is it that you want to do? What do you want to accomplish?
And by the way, and Sandra, by the way, we've been locked up for 7 months. If you haven't already begun to reassess your life and the world that you're in, you're already late. You are so late.
You're late.
You're already late.
I agree. I totally agree. But yes, I think that's how you start. And if you have a great idea, and you never know, I mean, there are also lots of people sitting around not doing a lot. You can pitch this idea. We talk about the internet and social media or whatever. You never know. There might be somebody out there that might think that idea is a great one. So, I mean, there are all kinds of ways, but I do think self-evaluation and assessment is the best way to start.
I agree. Anyone else want to comment on that? Julissa?
I agree with everything that has been said. I think, never let a crisis go to waste.
Yeah.
I think it's this is the time of creative destruction, and sadly a lot of our communities are the most gravely hit. So we have to be the ones really pioneering how to build back country better, because if we don't do it, it's just it's one, the recovery is not going to be equitable. And also, you better believe we'll have another crisis in the future, and we can't have this type of disaster hurt our communities as this pandemic has. So I think women, who are usually the ones at the forefront of these communities, we need to really reevaluate how to rebuild our country in a much better way. And that's really requiring creativity and entrepreneurship that I think is really part of our DNA.
Yeah. Part of our DNA.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What's another question, Hallema?
You're on mute, Hallema.
I'm glad y'all can hear me now.
Oh,
Hello.
we can.
So Alberta Bell. Hey, Alberta Bell. We have a question. She says, do women need to ask for the same salaries as men if you're same work and not be afraid to ask?
I'm sorry. Would you say that again?
Do women need to ask for the same salaries as men?
Well, yeah.
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 Hell yeah.
Well. Let me say something about that. First of all, you will never know what your predecessor, coworker really makes. They will always lie to you.
Yes.
So it's not really about asking for what homeboy got, but it's about being paid what your work and what you're worth. You know, what you're worth may not be exactly what he's getting paid, but as long as you're paid and you're happy, you know, with your pay and you're paid what you feel you're worth, I think that's what you fight for, you know, not about what nobody else doing. Because you can't keep up with these men, it's not going to happen.
But,
Till
you know,
till we take over.
Yeah, but Julissa, isn't there laws around now? You know, certain states you cannot actually be asked what you made in your previous job. They have to pay you what they were hoping to pay for the job, and if you're qualified, you get paid. And whether you're a man or woman, they should pay you the same there.
Right. I mean, there's so many. Depends on the state, right? So we're privileged. Some of us live in New York State where it's that's the law. There are always ways around things, like through bonuses, you know, and you know the man gets a bigger bonus than you do. So just because your base salary might be the same, you may not have. But there are obviously states, California and New York, that are much more progressive when it comes to the, you know, anti-discriminatory practices and laws than others.
Yeah. I'm going to step away for 1 second. I got to get my plug because I'm low battery. I'll be right back. Okay.
Well, Sandy is gone. I'm going to go to the next question and I'll repeat it when she comes back. So we have a question from Wayne Ali Nuruddin. What guidance would you ladies provide to a young woman of color who's interested in pursuing your respective career fields?
Ladies.
I think it depends on what career. So, I mean, if as a lawyer, I am a believer that you want to be a lawyer, you really need to love at least what you think being a lawyer is. I wouldn't go through all of that if you have if for the money or for, you know, what you see on TV. I mean, it's really, being a lawyer requires a lot of discipline, a lot of reading and writing. It's basically being like a nerd for a long time, especially, you know, a litigator. So I would encourage those who want to be lawyers to really kind of assess, evaluate, self-evaluate if this is really what I want to do, and if it's going to make me happy to be sitting around reading and writing the rest of my life. So that's one. In terms of diplomacy and the government work, I am a big fan of women and women of color in particular, serving the country. We do a lot of it in the military. We should do a lot of it also in other branches of government, like the State Department, the CIA, you know, Homeland Security. Like, there's just so many different things to do. And especially, I was at the State Department, and having different faces of the country represent the country abroad is such a powerful tool, and it really does make us a stronger country, much more respected country, because it's not just us, you know, saying we're a democracy. We're actually look like a democracy. All the diverse people are really representing the nation everywhere, not just talking about it. So I really encourage women of color to think about going into foreign policy and diplomacy and studying it and learning different languages, so you're really apt to participate and be good at it.
Yeah.
It's well said, Julissa. And I would say to you that I would say that there are certain types of industries where women are sort of, don't naturally go towards it. And I would urge them to think about frontline financial services. Go into trading, go into investment banking, go into sales. And I think that you will find that if you have the capabilities, these are amazing professions and careers for women. You can make a lot of money, nothing bad about making a lot of money, and really you can have tremendous impact. Especially when I was a wealth advisor, one of the things I realized was if I was as good, if not better, than my white colleagues, and I was the first person of color that they had hired into my branch office at Merrill Lynch. This was in 1989. And I remember walking in and thinking to myself, and they placed me in that first desk as soon as people would walk in. It used to be all these cubicles, and I was in the first desk. I was like that token diversity hire in many ways. Yeah. Guess what? Till I went right up through the ranks to the top of the chart, where I was the #1 producer in the office. And once you do that, it really doesn't matter. You cannot be a token. And so I would say to you, women are innately qualified to do this. We are great risk takers. We are measured in how we take risk. We are empathetic. We're able to explain. We're good teachers. There's so many things that we bring to the table. And I would say wealth management, it's a great career for women, and I would urge people to look at that. In the D&I space, in HR, there's lots and lots of women who come into this space. And I would tell them, do the opposite. Go into P&L roles. Look and see how the revenue gets made in the organization and find a pathway to get into those sorts of roles. Because ultimately, if you want to be running the company someday, and I hope there's many of you who are ambitious and want to do that, start out with knowing how the money comes into the company.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sandra, were you able to hear the question that I asked earlier?
I did not hear the question.
Okay, so let me repeat it. What guidance would you ladies provide to a young woman of color who's interested in pursuing your respective career fields?
Oh, well, from what I've heard from you ladies, I totally agree. I think understanding all aspects of the business, that's the best way to be successful, because that's the only way you're going to figure out where your niche is, where you really fit in. And so I think that's, what you ladies have said is really valuable. I think, the international component, I advocate that. I think we as Americans stay way too close to home. Yeah. If we're comfortable doing that, and I get it, but to step outside and to engage with other cultures is probably one of the most valuable things that happened for me. And I think it has broadened my horizons tremendously. And so, it's made me a better person. It's made my interaction with my family better, my interaction with my friends, and I've developed so many friends. And those are the individuals that you can pull from when you are climbing that ladder of success. I'm retired. I've been out there already. I'm retired a little bit, but yeah. It's really important. It's really, really, really important to start, understand, want to know, be curious about every aspect of the business.
Right.
I totally
well said.
I everything you ladies say, I think I've always believed in coming out your comfort zone. Working in PR and communications for a little over 30 years has been interesting, because one thing about PR people, and if any PR people listening, a lot of times you're asked a question like, what's your specialty? Are you in finance? Are you healthcare? And I've always been, because my degree was in mass communications, I'm like, well, listen, I'm communicating to the masses. I want to learn every damn thing.
Yeah.
It's important for me to learn, to be like that doctor in the emergency room, because in times like this, like COVID-19, when you need to reinvent yourself, it's important to learn entertainment. It's important to learn higher education. It's important to learn healthcare. And I've literally learned them all, if mastered at each one of them. So it's important to read too, y'all. Read. Don't ever stop reading. Don't ever stop being creative. I think a lot of times we miss the point. I read all kind of stuff. New York Times, Entrepreneur Magazine, Forbes, the Rosicrucian Method. I read a little bit of everything because you never know how it's going to come in handy. Yeah. So you got to constantly perfect and nurture your craft and learn other people's craft. Because 9/11, living in New York, 9/11 taught me that at the end of the day, you can go from a CEO to a janitor. Okay? And then you learn humility. And you learn how to, like right now, we all have experienced some type of natural disaster in our lives. And we pause for that moment. So this is our moment to pause and be creative and think about what is it that I'm not doing that I need to be doing. So like Luenell said earlier, if in these 7 months, you haven't thought about what you be doing, shame on you.
Shame on you.
Shame on you.
Yeah, you look tardy.
I think for people who want to go into entertainment, I think the first thing that you need to do goes back to your reading, because if you can't speak, enunciate, read, and comprehend script, everything is not a reality show. Everything that looks easy is not. You have to be able to read the script, baby, and you can't just come up here with "what's up, shawty" and all this type of stuff. It's not gonna. You have to be able to read and comprehend before you can be a comic, before you can be an actress, before you can be a musician or any of that. It's our kids are so lost in this virtual, unrealistic, superficial world that they don't have any preparation for what it is they see somebody else doing that make them think that's what they want to. Everything is work. Politics is work. Teaching is work. Acting and being a professional in the entertainment industry is work. You can look as good as you want to. You might have 5 minutes because it looks like every hoe is getting 5 minutes these days. But, if you want to laugh, I'm sorry. But if you want to last, if you want to be thought of as important, then you have to know how to read and you have to know how to comprehend.
Yeah,
that's
resilience. But there's going to be a lot of failures along
then
the way.
also, please be talented, because there's a lot of people who want to be in the industry who are not talented. Talent is not your forte, but because you want it, you think you can do it. There's a lot of people that want to sing that can't sing.
Right.
There's a lot of people that are acting that can't really act.
Right.
That's right.
That's right.
But if you can act like you can act.
Yeah.
So it's about education at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Education in any facet of any job. And I also feel if you're going to be creative, you shouldn't do any job unless you feel like you would die if you don't do it.
Yeah, that's true.
That's passion.
That's passion.
That's passion.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Let's go on to the next question, ladies. Eric Tillman asks, do you believe that there will be a more inclusive approach to education?
Well, God, I hope so. I truly hope so. Like everything else we've talked about, we've got time now to kind of reevaluate what it is we want. What's the end result of sending our children to school daily? Listen, I have to say, let me just back up just a little bit.
Come on.
When I found out that they don't teach cursive anymore.
Come on. People are they gonna know how to sign their
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. Now, there are things that are no longer essential, and I get that. Okay? I'm on board with that. Cursive, I think, is one of them that should be, but still, you need to be able to sign your signature. Come on. And typically that's in cursive. Now, to answer the question, I think we're, boards of education across the country, across the world, need to look at what is essential. What is it? Again, we need to self-assess, figure out what it is that we need, what's essential, what do our children need to know.
The essential.
The essentials. And then build on that. I think we can create the fundamentals to make that universal. And then give our children the opportunity to move in various directions. Because, every child is not interested, does not want the same things. And we need to honor that. I think sometimes we as parents, I've raised my children and, and they're successful and they're doing what they want. But I learned early on to walk away or to stand on the side and let them choose what it is that they want to do. I think that's really.
I'm just getting to that point.
Well, it's hard. It's hard because when
it is hard.
It
is hard.
That's very, very hard. But then I know students, and having taught thousands of them over the 40 some years I've been in the classroom, I have seen students who are just so conflicted because their parents want this and they want that, and so we create so many problems for them. So basically, for Eric, I'm hoping, yes, that we will reevaluate and look at education from a more wholesome perspective, because I think it's essential that we do that.
There are three aspects to education when you think about equity. One is around, they always say history is written by the victor, not the vanquished.
That's true.
So is what we are actually teaching the kids? We need to reevaluate that. What are they being taught? That's one.
I said that earlier for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, you said that, Luenell, right?
Yeah.
The second one is, teachers used to teach a certain way. Kids learn in many different ways. Technology is allowing us now to expand and allow all these kids who learn differently to still learn and be successful. So are we capitalizing on that during these times with remote learning? And the third one, this is the most important one for me, is there equity and fairness in accessibility? Because you say technology. What about stable Wi-Fi? What about good quality laptops? What about all of that is not equally available everywhere?
That's right.
Communities of color, in my opinion, get the short end of the stick. So when you look at an opportunity, this is where you need, whether it's private enterprise or government, stepping in to say, how can we create greater equity and fairness so that, kids, irrespective of their parents' socioeconomic status, will have access to good technology, to stable Wi-Fi. That's really important. So when I think about equity in education, those are the three things I think about.
What also crossed my mind, and I bet, Sandra, that you have been dealing with this throughout your career. There needs to be, if everything has to be a damn class, I don't know. You used to get it from parenting, but there needs to be classes on compassion, sensitivity, inclusiveness, acceptance, anti-bullying. These motherfucking kids are, I'm sorry, they need love. A lot of them.
You're right.
They're losing it. They're lost. You're right. Got to try to get these, the ones that can do technological stuff are fine. What about the other, like 70% that are just lost?
I agree.
They have no compassion by the age of like 7.
I agree.
Because they've seen it all. They've seen horrible stuff. And we need some, beyond your book teaching, I know that you have been a mentor and you can't teach if you're not like that. You can't teach. Well, it's like being a nurse. Nurses nurse because they want to take care of people.
Yeah.
They don't just do it so they can sit in school, like you said, and,
right.
Be a nerd. They want to really take care of people. And we've got to touch in these kids' soul before the computers do some kind of way.
That's true. So true.
Let me interrupt because I have to Rob. But I wanted to thank Hallema and Subha and Sandy and Luenell for letting me participate in this wonderful dialogue. I have to say one thing in terms of the education and learning. A lot of what we will learn as a society and as a people will be formed by what happens in the election in November. So we could either continue to learn about hate and anger and punishment and division and how we decimate, make that the norm, or we can choose a path that is one of compassion and understanding and progress. So, the learning is not only, textbooks and the like, but it is going to be we really have to figure out who we are as a nation, and that's going to happen in November. So we will know in November who we are. Anyway, right. Thank you, ladies. It's been such an honor.
Thank you, Julissa. Bye-bye. Y'all make sure if you have any questions for Julissa, please email questions@anythingandeverythingmedia.com. That's questions@anythingandeverythingmedia.com. We will continue, for as long as we're not going to be on here forever.
Yeah, we'll have to tell about it in a bit.
Yeah.
Because, my leg is healing and I got to go,
Luenell had knee surgery, and I appreciate you so much for being here with us, Luenell. I mean, listen, I know people who've had knee surgery. That ain't no joke.
No, just getting older ain't for punks, honey.
So they'll teach you, Luenell, the good leg goes to heaven and the bad leg goes to hell.
Well,
when you're climbing stairs, which leg you lead with when you climb up and climb down.
Well, I try not to climb. We ain't gonna my other knee done too, but I'm only 2 weeks out of surgery.
Oh, so. that's too soon.
Yeah. But I wouldn't have missed this though. This is
I appreciate
a shout out to you, Hallema.
Yeah,
you need to have more. This is great. Yeah. And the more diverse the panelists, the better. This has been good.
I totally agree. And listen, we're going to do this again, but I want to quickly, before you go, Luenell, I want to jump to some individual questions for each one of you, just to get it out the way, and because I want to be able to address this. So the question goes to Luenell. How have women of color redefined comedy? What are some of the challenges that women of color, more so Black women, face not only in comedy, but entertainment?
Well, that's a really long question, actually. I mean, answer to that, but I'm going to try to break it down the way I do. Everybody may have not liked Monique's delivery and what she was saying about money and discrimination in the industry. Everybody may not like her delivery, but what she said is true. The money bias and all that is true. But once again, Hallema, the pandemic and because we have two things. We got a pandemic and we got a race war going on. We got two things going on simultaneously. So with that happening and everybody getting all sensitive now about diversity, we have a great window to really do something. And I think that we just have to continue to fight in this industry. Everybody don't need to be in front of the camera. We need more Black writers. We need more black female writers, producers. We need more Black camera people. These people are important. Everybody's job ain't in front. We need you on the floor, and people are making demands in the industry that they will not, work unless you have a multicultural crew and all that. And I think that those are some things that are starting to happen now. As far as being a woman, it's just always going to be a fight, and that's just what it is. The best thing you do is be prepared, and like Subha has said, if you're the best, can't nobody deny that. And look at me, I'm 61 years old. I just did Rihanna Savage X fashion show. Rihanna, okay, in lingerie. 61.
I love it.
Down barriers. I have, by the way, on the way out, let me just shamelessly plug. That's on Amazon Prime. Rihanna Savage X Fenty Fashion Show. Second thing I have on Amazon Prime comes on tomorrow with the sequel to the Borat movie, Borat 2.
Yes.
Will be coming on Amazon Prime tomorrow. I'm in that. Thirdly, December 18th, also coming out on Amazon Prime, Coming to America, The Quest, the sequel to the 30-year classic starring Eddie Murphy. This is what I'm doing at 61.
That's right, baby.
So there's no excuse for nobody. You just have to always be on top of your game. And remember, what's going to make you different than 800 other thousand people trying to do the same job you're trying to do?
Yeah.
What's going to make you different? Because you got to stand out.
That's right, boo.
And there's only one Luenell.
Luenell, we appreciate you, my dear sister, and we just scrolled that across the screen for you, and they're going to share that information right there. Be on the lookout for Luenell. Everything she just said. We'll put this on the website later on and share it. But she is on the roll. So thank you. Thank you.
I hope you don't put the age part up there.
Well, you already put the age up there, Mama.
You ain't got to put that part up.
You done told everybody you were 61.
I know it. I'm hoping the bad internet clicked me out when I said that.
But it's all good. Listen, we definitely gonna do this again with the ladies. This is only part one. Women trailblazers, we don't stop, as y'all know. So it looks so. Luenell, thank you. I'm going to continue with Subha and Sandy, if you ladies don't mind, because I have a couple more questions and we're going to wrap this up.
Okay.
Luenell, thank you. So let me skip to Subha. Subha, what should a successful, inclusive work culture actually look like?
It's an interesting thing. How can you walk into a workplace, firstly, bringing your whole self in? And that means not having to slave over your hair for hours to have it look a certain way, and those are the sorts of things. Everybody may want to put makeup on and look nice and put a nice dress on, but hair is something, I have to tell you, God gives you a certain kind of hair, and to tame it, to get it to look a certain way takes a lot of time and energy and often money. So the question is, why is it that a certain look is more professional than the other? So the ability to walk in your whole self, that's the first one. Second, when you have ideas, when you have things to suggest, to share in the conversation, never having to muzzle that or quieten that. Yes, you have to present it in a thoughtful way. Yes, you have to be relevant. All of those things are important. That's knowing how to be professional. But putting an idea out and thinking, my God, that's going to make me look too smart. Never having to do that. Feeling completely comfortable with walking in with that best part of you. And then when you look around and you see something happening that you don't agree with, that you think is wrong, having the ability to step up and challenge it and question it, not worrying about how you will be perceived because you spoke up or stood up. Yeah. If everybody came into work and did that, can you imagine the kind of belonging that people would feel?
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Wow. Subha, every time I hear you speak, when I was at the conference in New York, when I was in Singapore, you are so passionate, but it's so real. And it doesn't just apply to us women. It applies to our men who are allies, who we need to be allies. Everyone needs to be an ally. Yeah. And to learn exactly what that actually means. So I appreciate you so much for your candidness and your passion. It just always touches me. I always get emotional. I'm not gonna do it all.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hallema. From the first time I met you, I thought to myself, we're going to do something special. I didn't know what that was.
I know.
And so I'm really looking forward to it. And for you to have included me today is very special. It's very important to me, and I deeply appreciate and thank you.
Oh.
And I'm so delighted I got to meet these other incredible women that I know I'm going to stay connected to.
Oh, yeah. We'll be all attending the conferences. Trust me.
Good.
And then finally in person. Sandy,
Yeah.
you have been in higher education and fashion for over 45 years and retired. What has that journey been like for you? How did you navigate the path of a racially inclusive fashion industry?
Wow, that's a good question. It's like being on a battlefield, actually. I mean, you have to watch where you step because it's like a minefield sometimes.
Yes.
There's always incoming from somewhere that you didn't expect. The war analogy may not be something that everybody is comfortable with, but for us as women of color, it's a war. And we worry about how we're perceived. We're often, disrespected and disregarded. Yet we have to maintain a certain level of decorum and manage to walk through it. These are qualities that we have to cultivate, I think, as women in general. It's unfortunate, but it's true. I just, I have also loved what I do, which makes it so much easier. I challenge every woman, every individual to do what you love. Because if you're going to have to do it, if you got to make a living, you've got to thrive and, whatever, you might as well be doing something that speaks to your heart. I'm one of the fortunate ones that I've been in education and I've been in the world of fashion, and there are two things that are very, very, very important to me. So I can manage the landmines and the incoming because of that. And I get up every day and do something that feeds my heart and my soul. That's kind of sums it up. Other than, I'm delighted to have been a part of this. This was wonderful. Subha, oh my goodness, I'm just so delighted that we've been connected because you are a true inspiration.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
There are days when I need a little pick-me-up.
Yeah, call me.
I will call you. And Hallema's like a daughter of mine. I mean, we connected and we fell in love when she first came to Doha, and it's been a girl romance, from the very beginning. And I've been hard on her sometimes too.
Yes, she has.
But I love her. And I love being a part of this, and I look forward to us getting together again.
I hope so. I look forward to it too.
I look forward to that. I think this is a very important conversation. There are so many different conversations out there about women of color, but women in general, and about allies. And I think this was a much needed conversation, especially as we're approaching the election. And so I want to thank you, ladies. Like I said, we haven't had a chance to get to all the questions, but that's fine. Make sure you all visit the Anything and Everything Media website for more information for any upcoming events with us and other women. And then send those questions to questions@anythingandeverythingmedia.com. I want to ask Sandy and Subha, if there are any upcoming events, please share that with us right now. If there's anything, I know you got a couple of conferences, Subha, that are coming up virtually, correct?
That's right. That's right. I'll send you a list and we can post it on your side. It's one we have an event for the best companies for dads, because we realized in our research that in order for women to do really well, working moms especially to do really well, they need the support of the dads.
Yeah.
So as you look at it, and, I always give the example of my own life. When early career, my husband was such a big supporter of mine. Otherwise, in the kind of industry I was in, I would have not been able to make it. So, I always say to young women when they ask me, what is the wisest career move you can make? Choosing a really supportive, great spouse. That's what you start with. Be careful who you choose. So the best companies for dads honors and celebrates companies that really have programs and policies that are gender neutral. So they don't just have things, they look at parents and caregivers And it doesn't matter if you're male or female. And so that includes same-sex couples and the rest. So that's one. The other one we have is a Women of Excellence and our NAFI Top Companies event in December. And I will send you information on both that you can post on your site. And it is really a way to, again, celebrate companies that do a really great job with promoting women to senior levels within their organizations. So we look at data constantly. So we're not a subjective organization. There's no qualitative questions. They're all quantitative. You're either making it or not. And so we're excited for that. And then we have next year. Hallema, you're on mute.
Thank you. I'm sorry about that. I actually have those conferences pulled up. I'm going to have production. Make sure you share that information. And you can always go to the workingmothermedia.com website. And I'll also have it on the Anything and Everything Media, the Dad's Count, and then the Women of Excellence on November 13th, October 28th for Dad's Count. I think there's another one you mentioned.
A third one is the Top Companies for Executive Women, and then our Women in Tech event.
Exactly. So you guys check that out. I'll be sharing that information as well.
Well, thank you so much, Hallema.
Oh no, definitely. I appreciate this conversation. I appreciate you ladies. And like I said, we will be doing this again. Everyone, please support these women-owned businesses. Share the picture of those women-owned businesses on the website. If any women of color-owned businesses would like me to highlight your business, please let me do so. I will be more than happy to share them on the website. So please send me your information to producer@anythingandeverythingmedia.com. That's producer@anythingandeverythingmedia.com. Sandy, it looks like it's just you and I, Mama.
I know, girl. I know. So it's time for us to go.
I think we all falling asleep right now. Listen, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. This will be available on YouTube and on my Hallema's World Facebook page. Stay tuned for more great things happening. Much peace and many blessings.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.